Hello! Welcome to Ron Pawn Fairy Tales. I'm Ron Pawn. I'm going to read you a fairy tale. This one's called Mort and the Seven Ravens. Also, my head is very shiny right now. If I turn off the overhead light, these lights cause too much of a shadow. I don't know. I'm new. It's my first one. Mort and the Seven Ravens. Written by Ron Mackenzie LaFurgy. Narrated by Ron Mackenzie LaFurgy. Once upon a time, there lived a farmer and his wife. They lived on their farm with their 7 daughters, whom they loved very much. However, they longed for a son and prayed every night that they would have one. Soon enough, they were expecting another child, and when it was born, they saw to their great delight that it was a boy. The joy was immense, but the baby boy, whom they named Mort, was frail and needed to be baptized quickly for fear that he would die unbaptized. This was a big deal back then. So the mother sent one of her daughters to fetch water from a well for the baptism, while the other 6 went along to help. And by help, I mean argue over who got to be the one to fill the jug with water, because apparently that was a big deal. Big honor. It's kids for you. In their squabble, the jug tumbled into the well. The sisters didn't know what to do, and none dared to return home without water. As time went by, their father became increasingly impatient, fearing that his son would perish without being baptized. In his frustration, the father exclaimed, "I wish my daughters were all turned into ravens!" I guess probably said that with a British accent. "I wish my daughters were all turned into ravens!" Now, this probably sounds odd to you with your modern sensibilities, but, well, actually it was pretty odd back then too. But that's what he said. In his that's the same line. No sooner had the words left his mouth than he heard the beating of wings overhead. He looked up to see 7 coal-black ravens soaring away into the sky, and he thought, oh crap, maybe I shouldn't have said that weird thing about turning my daughters into ravens. The parents were unable to undo the curse, and though they were devastated by the loss of their 7 daughters, they found solace in their young son Mort, who gradually grew stronger and more handsome each day. For a long time, Mort knew nothing about his sisters, as his parents avoided mentioning them, mostly because his dad felt like an idiot for that weird curse. One day, however, Mort overheard some people gossiping about him. They were talking about how handsome he was, a topic he rather enjoyed, so he listened further. However, they went on to say that he was responsible for the misfortune that befell his 7 sisters. Frankly, I'm shocked it took him that long to hear about it. 7 girls just disappeared. I know it was once upon a time, but damn. Anyway, deeply troubled, Mort confronted his parents and asked if it was true that he had sisters, and what happened to them. His parents could no longer keep the secret and explained that his sister's fate was an act of God. "It wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault," explained. Maybe not quite so aggressively. "It wasn't your fault," explained his father. "Yeah," continued his mother, "it's your father's fault." "What did our therapist say about the blame game?" replied his father. "I don't know, dear. What did you say about turning our daughters into ravens?" The argument continued, but Mort barely heard it. He was reeling. Despite that assurance that he was not responsible, Mort was determined to save his sisters. So he decided to set out on a secret journey to find them and set them free, regardless of the cost. He took only a few possessions with him: a small ring that belonged to his parents as a memento, a loaf of bread to stave off hunger, a little pitcher of water to quench his thirst, and a small chair to rest on when weary. I might have forwent looking around a chair in favor of more bread and water, but we all have our priorities. Mort journeyed onward, venturing far and wide to the ends of the earth. His travels first led him to the sun, but it was unbearably hot and dangerous, said to consume children in its fiery embrace. Quickly, Mort turned away and ventured toward the moon. However, the moon was bitterly cold and equally sinister. When it saw Mort, it sneered, "I can smell human flesh." Frightened, Mort hurried away, eventually finding solace in the stars. The stars were kind and gentle to Mort, each resting on its own tiny chair. As the morning star appeared, it presented Mort with a chicken drumstick. Explaining, "You will need this drumstick to open the glass mountain where your sisters are imprisoned." Whew. As a side note, I'm not sure how he achieved these meetings with these celestial beings, nor am I sure why the moon is such a creep. It was probably metaphorical, but I can't for the life of me figure out what it's supposed to mean. For all I know, Mort was tripping balls. Either way, the drumstick was very real. Mort held on to said drumstick, carefully wrapping it in a cloth, and continued his journey until he reached the glass mountain. He approached the entrance only to find the door locked, which he saw coming. As he unwrapped the cloth to retrieve the drumstick, he discovered that it was gone, and he had lost the Morning Star's gift, so I guess he wasn't careful enough when he carefully wrapped it in that cloth. 3 sentences ago. Frustrated and determined, Mort knew he had to find a way to rescue his sisters. He took a knife, bravely cut off one of his fingers, and used it to unlock the door, succeeding in opening it. Now that's commitment. Upon entering, Mort encountered a small dwarf, who asked him what he was looking for. Mort replied that he was searching for his sisters, the 7 ravens. The dwarf informed him that the ravens were currently away, but invited him to wait inside for their return. The dwarf brought in the ravens' dinner, on 7 little plates and in 7 little glasses. Mort nibbled a bit from each plate and sipped from each glass, but in the last glass, he dropped the ring he had brought with him. I apologize. I tried to make the burp as subtle as I could. I think I failed. The dwarf said, "What are you doing? Why are you eating their food?" "Trust me." Is he gonna be? Is he? Yeah. I'll just make him English. "Trust me, it'll be really cool," replied Mort. "They'll be totally surprised." But why? But wouldn't they be surprised to see you regardless? Why leave these clues? Mort was certain there was a reason, but he could not for the life of him think of it. Suddenly, a rush of wings filled the air, and the dwarf announced the arrival of the ravens, so Mort quickly hid outside the room with a stupid grin on his face, giggling to himself. As they landed and prepared to eat and drink, each raven noticed that someone had taken a bite from their plates and a sip from their glasses. Immediately, they all glared at the dwarf, who shrugged and said, "It wasn't me." Believing him, they exclaimed that a human must have done it. And when the 7th raven reached the bottom of the glass, the ring rolled into her mouth. Upon seeing the ring, the ravens were all reminded of their human lives, recalling memories which had been stripped by the curse. In a great burst of light, they all changed back into humans, looking just as they did all those years ago. Seeing this, Mort stepped out from behind the door, revealing himself to his sisters. Overjoyed, they embraced and shared heartfelt kisses, and nobody questioned why he did that weird thing with their food. Together, they journeyed home, celebrating their long-awaited reunion. Upon seeing their daughters, the farmer and his wife embraced them and wept happy tears. They thanked Mort for his bravery. He had chopped his finger off, after all, and they all lived out their days, happily ever after. After. Wow, that would have been really nice if my voice hadn't cracked right on the last word. But them's the breaks. Thank you for joining me today on Ron Pond's Fairy Tales. These fairy tales will eventually be made into a book, so if you're watching this, it may already have been made. Check the description. Or my Twitter, at Ron_Mackenzie_ MCK. Anyway, I'm not going to waste time at the end of this video. Thanks for joining me. Tune in next time to see what Mort's up to.